Hey there, I hope you're doing well. My name is Adam and today we're going to look at some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy Reddit stories, consider liking, subscribing, and maybe hitting that notification bell too. Let's get started with today's first story. Much love, everyone. Today's first story comes from my mom stole my money for sister's wedding. I took revenge. Some people only want one thing from you. Today on our lounge, the plot thickens when a $400,000 inheritance becomes the epicenter of a cunning plan. Mom used my money to fund my sister's lavish wedding. I froze the account and ruined the wedding. I'm going through a weird problem in life. Actually, it's not a problem, I'm in a dilemma. My mom and sister have been using me for years and now they have crossed all limits of exploitation. I want to cut them off, but that would mean pushing them into poverty, which seems harsh to me, but I'm also done giving in to their demands. I'm a 38-year-old female married with 2 kids living in Ohio for the last 6 years after my wedding. I'm originally from Houston. My childhood was problematic due to my parents' divorce and my dad leaving us, accusing my mom of infidelity. It remains disputed to date if it was just an accusation or if it was true because mom never remarried. I was 10 and my sister was 5 when my parents got separated. They say that my father suspected that my sister was not his, which led to a divorce. As alimony, he let mom keep the house in which we lived, and he moved out. My father paid for my education but not for my sister's. He didn't give child support money for her and I don't know why mom never contested it. I guess that's the reason why everyone believes in Dad's accusation of my sister not being his daughter. Dad was not in touch with us for most of my childhood. He occasionally showed up at my school to pay the school fee and brought some gifts for me. But when I went to high school, I contacted him, and since then he has always been a part of my life. He even attended my wedding despite a lot of resistance from my mom. Over the years, I bonded better with my dad than my mom. He even visited Ohio twice after I settled here, but this didn't last long. He was diagnosed with a terminal illness and we lost him last year. Mom didn't like my closeness with my dad and she got cold towards me. To add to her fury, Dad named me as his heir. He married many years after his divorce with mom, but he didn't have any children with his second marriage. He used to say that he had just one daughter, and that was me. It goes without saying that mom and sister didn't like me because Dad loved me and I got to inherit his $400,000 trust fund. It wasn't just about this inheritance. Right through childhood, Dad used to pay for my education, so I ended up studying in a better school, went to a better college than my sister, and overall led a better life because of the child support money. You see, I was 10 when they got divorced and by that time child support and my education money started coming in. I was 12, so my mother had little control over it. Education fees directly went to the school and college respectively from the child support money. Mom did spend a portion of it on my sister and for other household stuff. Since I was not a stupid kid, my mom kept me happy so that I didn't complain about it to anyone. So I won't say that my mom and sister were evil to me growing up. But they definitely didn't like me, and they both were pretty tight while I just existed there. Besides, I was smart, not just academically but clever as a child, not someone who could be treated as a doormat and walked over. I think that was also the reason that mom could never ill-treat me. My present-day problem is that $400,000 money that Dad had left for me. Ever since my mom and sister got to know about this, they were behind me to borrow money for one thing or the other. Actually, if you see, this is not the first time that they have reached out to me financially. Ever since I started working, I have helped them. As my income grew, so did their needs. I don't owe them anything, but the only reason I help them is because they are family and they don't make as much money. Mom works as a cashier in a supermarket and sister is into sales in a boutique. They collectively don't earn half of what I earn, so I feel obligated to help them. We might not be so emotionally attached, but they have never been mean or evil to me. I hope you all get me, and I'm not confusing everyone with my feelings. A couple of months ago, Mom called me to say that she wanted to renovate our house. The walls, the ceilings, and the floors all have been damaged over the years. Ever since Dad moved out, the house has never been painted and the wirings have never been repaired. The ceilings and the walls are crumbling from corners. We never had enough money to maintain the house. She said that it was becoming difficult for them to live in that house. During the thunderstorm or rains, it feels like the house would crumble down. She said she visited the bank to ask for a loan, but the interest rate was just too high to bear. I understood what she was hinting at. She wanted the money from me to renovate the house. It was an awkward conversation because I knew what she wanted, but neither she nor I spoke about it directly. After that conversation, I started ignoring her calls. She doesn't call me a lot. It is never more than a monthly call, but this time she called me at least 3 to 4 times last month. Finally, when I attended her call, she said that it was becoming unsafe to live in that house because it was falling apart in bad weather. This time she was upfront in her approach and asked me for the money she promised to return to me in installments. I asked her how much money she was expecting. She said $100,000. I lost my mind. I said I don't have that much money to lend. She hinted at the inheritance money. I was infuriated but didn't indulge in further conversation about the trust fund money. I said that $50,000 is the maximum I can lend. She agreed. Later I realized that I was too impulsive to put my guard down and offer $50,000. I could have just ignored it, but now that I had told her I had to lend her the money, I didn't have a very good feeling about lending such a huge amount of money. My husband suggested that I lend the money in installments and monitor the progress of the house before giving the next installments. I told my mom that I would be sending the $50,000 in installments. I had my inactive account in Houston. I activated that and transferred the $10,000 into that account and gave access to that account to Mom. She asked why I didn't transfer the money directly to her account. I gave some lame excuse for that. This is actually my husband's idea. Let's see how much this works. I just hope she returns the money, though I'm not very hopeful. But let's see. The fact that you believe she'll return the money is quite foolish of you. You know for a fact that she's asking you for money because she's careless with it, and it won't stop here. She'll always hound you for more, and it will never be enough. I cannot really put my finger on how my mom and sister tried to dupe me for the easy money. It's been 2 months since I started lending out the money to my mom for the house renovation. I have given $20,000 until now, and I'm not going to give a penny after this. I knew they were nice to me only for my money, but I didn't imagine they would lie to me this severely to get money out of my pocket. If they were upfront to me, this wouldn't have hurt that much. I got to know that my sister is getting married, not from my family, but from one of my school friends. My school friend's husband is a wedding planner, and my sister has been in touch with his agency to plan her grand wedding. Yeah, that's what they call the wedding to be. I think my sister didn't know that I'm friends with them. Of course, a wedding worth $50,000 is not less than a grand one. It hurts to know about your sister's wedding from others. Forget about the invitation. I wasn't even informed about it. I thought it to be a close and intimate one with fewer people, but my friend told me that the guest list was around 100. It was heartbreaking that I couldn't even make it to that 100. Feelings set aside, it was one thing, but I was more bothered about the money. From where did she get the money to organize such a lavish wedding? One of the best venues in the town with unlimited food and drinks, with top-notch decorations and flowers. I checked the bank account to where I was sending the money to my mom for her so-called renovation work. The bank account was empty. I called Mom to ask if the renovation work had started. She said, yes, she has hired the renovation company, but the work is yet to be started. I just couldn't take her lies anymore.
I didn't know for sure if they were actually using my money for her wedding, yet it disgusted me to think that they were spending bombs on her wedding and, on the other hand, taking money from me for the renovation of the house. For a moment, I wanted to fly down to Houston and check for myself what was going on, but I realized it wasn't worth it. I called up my aunt, my father's sister, who lived a few blocks away from my mother's house. I asked her if she knew about my sister's wedding. She said yes, but she wasn't invited either. Mom is not fond of my father's side of the family, so this is understandable. Aunt said that my sister's wedding had become the talk of the neighborhood. I mean, until a few years ago their house was crumbling into dust without maintenance. They both were working their butts off to put food on their table, and now they have a sparkling new house and a grand wedding. I felt dizzy and disoriented hearing this. Mom said that the house was yet to be repaired, but Aunt said that it was sparkling with new paint. Then I realized that around 6 months back, Mom asked me for $2,000 for her knee transplant. I called up my mom, asking her for the details of where she did the knee transplant. I lied that one of my friends needs the orthopedic details of her father's knee surgery. She fumbled for words and said she doesn't remember the name. I asked her for the hospital or clinic details, but she struggled to say anything. She was caught off guard. She just pretended to have a network issue and hung up. When I called her again, her phone was switched off for a while and then it went unanswered. I dropped her a text as well, but that remained unread. For many days I understood she was lying. The money I gave her for the transplant was used up for the house renovation, and the money she is taking for the renovation is actually going for my sister's fairy tale wedding. Aunt also told me that my sister's engagement was organized on the front lawn of my house, and they decorated the house with lights and with wine overflowing. I felt like I was living in a cave because I had no clue that they were living such a lavish lifestyle and pretending to be poor in front of me to suck out money from my pocket. So next, what I did was ghost them. I stopped putting money in that account. When my mom called me, I didn't respond. I didn't respond to her text. My sister, who never called me in all these years, called me, but I didn't respond to her as well. I'm done with them, and now I'm not going to entertain any of their lies and manipulation. It doesn't matter that I earn more than them or that my father left me an inheritance and didn't give them anything. It doesn't mean that they can leech on me and use me with their false tactics. I have pledged to ruin the big day of my mom's princess, yikes op. I wish you had cut them off sooner than this.
This is technically your father's money, and your father chose not to have anything to do with them for a reason. I was so right about my mom when I didn't respond to any of their outreach. Mom called my husband. I tell you, my husband is one lot of a spoiled sport. I gave him the heads up not to entertain any of their calls and texts, but still, when my mom called, he responded to it. She started crying and said that I had ghosted them. They needed the money for the renovation work and the work was midway, and I had traced back on my promise. My husband blurted out the truth. Yes, he did that. I felt like smacking his head. He told her I knew the truth, that she had been using the money for all this while and that the money was actually going to my sister's wedding, and that's why I had cut them off. I got so annoyed with this because I wanted to make them suffer for putting up with this fraud, but my husband ruined everything. He also told her that we knew she had lied about the knee transplant and used up that money for house repair. After that call, my mom bombarded my phone with apologies. She said that it was a misunderstanding. She had loaned the amount to someone for the house repair, and now she was repaying it to him. For my money, it was another BS. After her constant calls and messages, I told her I was ready to talk to her only if she promised to tell me the truth. She said, okay. I called her, and she told me the whole truth. She said that my sister wanted a grand wedding, but they didn't have the money to pull it off, so they decided to ask me for the money. It was my sister's idea to take the money from me using the reason for the house renovation. They knew I hadn't visited Houston in many years, and also I was not in touch with anyone around there, so there was no way I would have known that the house was already renovated. I asked her why she didn't tell the truth and ask me for the money directly for the wedding. She said my sister didn't want that. She said she didn't want to take a favor from me directly. Wow. Do you see that? I said, I know she repaired the house with the knee transplant money I gave." She got silent. I said I knew all the truth, so there was no point hiding it. She said that the house was crumbling and my sister's in-laws wanted to visit them, so they had to get it repaired quickly, and in the moment of hurry, they couldn't come up with any better emergency reason to get the money from me. So she panic-called me, saying that the doctor had asked her for an urgent knee transplant, and I transferred the money within hours. Though I stood strong on the call, I was crying from within how my own mother was duping me for her own good. I understand they have money problems, but it doesn't give them the right to manipulate me and extort money from me using emotions. After I heard all the truth, I hung up the call and cried for hours. I don't remember the last time I cried so hard, maybe during my father's demise. I missed him so badly that day. I felt he was the only one who genuinely loved me and cared for me. After 2 days, I got a voice message from Mom saying, "Now that you know, can you please send the remaining amount so that we can continue with the wedding preps?" It disgusted me so much that I wanted to abuse her. If she was not my mother, how could she be so narcissistic? There was no remorse in her tone. All she wanted was money. She didn't ask me to come for the wedding, not even for formality's sake. Not even when the truth came out. I felt so frustrated that I blocked both of them. I have also threatened my husband not to entertain their calls, and if this time he disobeys me, he would sleep outside on the porch in the cold night. I'm dang serious about this. I'm in constant touch with my aunt, and she told me that the wedding is next month. I didn't tell her the details about the money, but I know for sure that, with each passing day, my mom and sister are having a hard time putting together the wedding they desired. Good for them. The audacity to still ask for the money, wow. I continue to get calls and voicemails from Mom and sister until the day of the wedding, asking me for the money, but I stood firm on my ground and didn't budge. On the wedding day, the last voice message my mom sent was that she was ashamed of me and was disowning me and that I should never call her mom or visit her ever. I was just so disheartened to hear that I cried my heart out in front of my husband. I know people might call me evil and stubborn for ruining my sister's wedding. My mom also accused me of that, calling me arrogant and self-centered, but she never thought about her lies. She deceived me all this while. I helped them because I felt obliged to. I considered them to be my family, but for them, I was nothing but a money-making machine. On the day of the wedding, I got a call from my friend whose husband was my sister's wedding planner. She told me that the wedding was most likely to get cancelled because they were not paying the further installments of the wedding expenses. I asked her how much they had paid. She said $20,000. I said $20,000 is enough to put up a decent wedding. She said yes, but my sister had placed the order on top-notch decorations and food. The location, which was finalized itself, cost around $20,000. She asked me if I was attending. I said no, I had some other work, so I couldn't attend. My friend knew that I was not so close to my mom and sister. To be honest, I was sulking from within because I was responsible for ruining my sister's wedding for a moment. I thought about transferring the remaining amount to my friend and asking her to continue the wedding, as per the plan. Then I remembered my mother's last voicemail that she had disowned me. What's the point of doing so much for them when ultimately you get disowned? My actions might be bad, but it was a reaction to their malicious trigger. I switched off my phone and went with my kids for a day out to stay distracted. The next day my friend again called me. She was angry at my sister because the wedding brought down her husband's reputation in the market. On the day of the wedding, Mom and sister pleaded with her husband to arrange for something bare minimum for the wedding and promised to pay $10,000 more. He somehow arranged for decent food and decoration because the advanced money of $20,000 was almost covered for the venue itself. However, the guests in the groom's family criticized the wedding arrangements very badly, and my sister blamed everything on the wedding planner. She told everyone that the planner had messed up everything. My friend said her husband was so infuriated that he wanted to tell everyone the truth, but my mom pleaded with him not to spoil my sister's life. He was a good man that he stood silent and took up the blame on himself and let the wedding happen. On top of that, they didn't even pay the promised $10K. Yet I felt so embarrassed to hear this about my family. I just stood silent and did not say anything. My friend said she was not blaming me for anything, but she was just sharing her frustration with me. As a friend, I felt bad that my family had to undergo such embarrassment, but I was also embarrassed with the way they had pulled all the blame on the wedding planner. After knowing all this, my husband said they got what they deserved and I shouldn't be worrying too much about them. They brought this upon themselves because they tried to impress everyone by false means. I'm glad that I stay away from them and their tricks. Now, I feel that my mother's disownment was a blessing in disguise, that I no longer have to deal with her lies and false tactics. Why would you want people like that in your life anyway? She's a terrible excuse for a mother. In fact, a mother wouldn't do that to her own flesh and blood. She's a snake, and you and your husband are far better off without them. What do you think? Would you have given your mother the money? Why or why not? I'm going to turn this one over to you. What do you make of this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time mean the world to me. So, thank you so much for being part of this. I really appreciate your time. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.